My friend and brother Arnold is somebody who I agree with on 100% of the essentials and 90% of other issues. Eschatology, we have much in common as well, but certainly I'm not pre-tribulational, and I would disagree with him on this point. The idea that the Antichrist will be Gentile, we've pointed out before, he'll be something much more sinister than anyone who has ever arrived on the global stage before. To say that it's an assumption that the Jews won't make a covenant with the Gentile or that he'll have to be a Jew, well, I would refer you to, turn with me please, to the Gospel of St. John, chapter 5. Jesus said this in verse 43, "I've come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another shall come in his own name, you will receive him." Now, this is something I once discussed with Arnold, and I told Arnold I believe it was partially fulfilled by Simon Bar Kokhba in the 2nd century, who was an Antichrist and a type of the Antichrist. But this is a prophecy by Jesus of the Antichrist. If another shall come, him you will believe. They're going to believe he's a messianic figure. For that to happen, he must in some way be Jewish. I've also pointed out in our teaching on Herod the Great that when we understand Revelation chapter 12 in light of Daniel chapter 10 and 11, particularly chapter 10, where the beast has 7 heads, that we have a pesher interpretation of Matthew's nativity narrative in Revelation 12, where you have a Herod-like figure trying to kill the baby coming out of the woman so he can retain power. The same as the beast with 10 horns in Daniel chapter 10. He wants to keep power the way Herod did. Hence, the Herodian figure in Revelation 12 wants to kill the baby coming out of the woman. And when he fails to do it because the baby is harpazo, raptured, it's actually harpazo in Greek, he makes war with the woman and the rest of her offspring. After he becomes enraged with the woman, he makes war with the rest of her offspring, as Herod the Great did when he killed the male babies under 2 years of age in Bethlehem. It plainly replaced the nativity narrative, what Herod did. We cannot build a doctrine on type, but typology illustrates doctrine. Herod was the king of the Jews. He did not want another king of the Jews, the Messiah. He was the king of Judea. Now, in my book, Shadows of the Beast, we go into this at length. Herod was an Idumean. He was an Arab. The Idumeans were people from Edom who were conquered by the Hasmoneans in the intertestamental period and who settled in an area of the Negev where Herod built some of his hiding places, not the Herodian, that's near Bethlehem, but certainly Masada, places like this. He was an Idumean. In other words, he was an ethnic Arab through his parents. Secondly, by religion, he was a Jew and accepted as a Jewish king even by the Jews. Thirdly, he was a Roman and accepted by the Romans as a Roman. The Romans normally put proconsuls, people like Pontius Pilate, as governors of protectorates or colonies. But they used Herod because they considered him to be one of them. Thus we have Herod the Great, to the Romans a Roman, to the Jews a Jew, and to the Arabs an Arab. This teaches something major about the Antichrist. It is not an assumption to say that Jews will only follow a Jew who claims to be a Messiah. Antichrist always imitates Christ in the sense of trying to counterfeit him. We see that in the book of Revelation, Jesus returns on a white horse. So therefore, in chapter 6 of Revelation, we see the Antichrist coming before him on a white horse. Antichrist will attempt to counterfeit the millennial reign of Jesus, telling people he's going to build a better world. Again, this is very much in the character of what Herod the Great did concerning his expansion of the temple. The Antichrist will do the same thing concerning the temple. We explain this again in the book shadows of the beast. But let's go even further with this. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. Now, Jesus was making it clear, you don't receive me as the Messiah. But if somebody comes in his own name, him you're going to receive. This is a direct prophecy about the Antichrist. I agree it had a partial fulfillment in historical figures, such as Bar Kokhba. But even Bar Kokhba was not universally held to be the Messiah. He was proclaimed to be the Messiah by Rabbi Akiva, but he was not universally held to be the Messiah. There was a large Jewish diaspora at that time. And not all Jews followed Bar Kokhba. Some did not. He actually, according to Yigal Yadin, could be quite a brutal person, and there were those who didn't like him. He once kicked a 90-year-old rabbi in the head and killed him, according to Yigal Yadin, the Israeli general and archaeologist who wrote the definitive book on Bar Kokhba. So, looking at John chapter 5, verse 43, bearing in mind the Antichrist will counterfeit Christ, I would have to conclude the Antichrist will in some way, one of these two beasts, certainly, Antichrist, will have to be in some way a Jew and seen as a Jew. Now that does not mean he's not a Roman. Paul was a Jew who was a Roman. Herod was a Jew who was a Roman. It's not to say he's not a Roman, but it's not an either-or situation. It's an inclusivist situation. Now, again, I'd point out, I like Arnold very much personally. I agree with almost all of his teaching. But on certain points of eschatology, we do differ. And on certain points of interpretation of the book of Hebrews, we do differ. Yet, I overall recommend his ministry. I'm not in any way critical of him, or I have no problem with him expressing his view. It is simply a view that I think can be and should be debated. I think it is not fully accurate. He's right when he's saying that the Antichrist will be a Roman, but he's wrong when he's saying that that means he will not be in some way a Jew. Thank you so much for your question. My name is Jacob Prasch. God bless.
Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.